Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi Masechet Terumot. We are up to Perek Dal Mishnah Yud Gimel. Today's Mishnah should be Nishmat Neria ben Tzvidlana Aranbayev and Eliyahu ben Bracha Israelov Menuchatam Began Eden Amen. Rabotai, the final Mishnah in Perek Daled, Mishnah Yud Gimel, continues the discussion of the law that Terumah becomes nullified in 100 parts of Chulin. If Terumah falls into a mixture, you have to have 100 more parts of Chulin to cancel that one part Terumah. Amar Rabbi Yossi said, Maaseh ba lefnei Rabbi Akiva b'50 agudot shel yarak. An incident came before Rabbi Akiva involving 50 bundles of chulin vegetables, shenafla achad mehem letochan chetziat terumah, into which another similar bundle, half of which was terumah, fell in. So you have 50 bundles of vegetables. One bundle fell inside, and half of that one bundle was terumah. V'amarti lefanav ta'aleh. Rabbi Yossi says, I said before Rabbi Akiva, it is nullified. That half bundle of terumah is cancelled out. The reason is not because terumah can be nullified in a total of 51 total parts. Rather, the chidush of the Mishnah, Rabbi Yossi says, the chidush of his halacha, we include only the actual terumah in the calculation. Therefore, since only half of the bundle that fell in was terumah, and there were 102 half bundles in total, it is nullified. And the Mefarshim explain, one might have thought that since the bundle is part terumah and part chulin, the entire bundle is considered terumah. Saying that the terumah is nullified in 50 bundles of chulin would mean that one part terumah is nullified in 50 parts chulin. Therefore, Rabbi Yossi clarifies, no, it's not because that it's nullified in a total of 51 total parts. Rather, the reason it's nullified is because we're only taking that half bundle, which is terumah, against the other 101 half bundles, which are chulin. And therefore, the one part terumah is nullified in the 102 total parts. The Tosafot Yom Tov does point out to us that even if there were only 101 total half bundles, it still would have been nullified, because you had half which is tme'ah, and the half which is te'oah, and the other 100 which are chulin. It would have been the same halacha. Happened to be in this case, there were 102 half bundles. But the point of the Mishnah, we see, since Rabbi Akiva was silent, that shows that he agrees with the ruling of Rabbi Yossi, that it is nullified in the 102 total half bundles. That is in Rabotai of Perek Daled. Perek Hey now begins by continuing the discussion of the previous chapter regarding terumah that became mixed into chulin. Again, terumah, produce of the Kohen, falls into chulin, non-sacred produce. The Mishnah is going to teach us now, what do you do if there is not enough non-terumah produce in the mixture to nullify the terumah? It's a long Mishnah, it's a little complicated, but again, we'll try to simplify it, to try to understand it. Now, the Mishnah says, Se'at terumah tme'ah. If a se'ah, we'll use, for example, just to make it easier so we won't get lost, if a pound of terumah that is tameh, shenafla lefachot mimea chulin or lemaaser rishon or lemaaser sheni or lehekdesh, it fell into less than 100 pounds of chulin, which is, again, it's produce that has no sanctity at all, or it fell into maaser rishon or maaser sheni or hekdesh. Again, maaser rishon is the 10% that goes to the Levi, maaser sheni is the 10% that you take to Eden Yerushalayim, or it fell into hekdesh, which is temple property. Ben tme'in, ben teorim bil kavu. The halacha is whether the produce into which a terumah fell is tameh or tahor, they are all left to rot. So the Mishnah says, if a pound of terumah that is tameh fell into less than 100 pounds of chulin or maaser rishon or maaser sheni or hekdesh, whether it is tameh or tahor, the produce that fell in, they are all left to rot. Why? Since there are less than 100 pounds of non-terumah produce, there is not enough produce to nullify the terumah mixture. Even a kohen may not eat terumah that is tameh, and therefore the entire mixture is left to rot. And the Mefarshim point out, even terumah tme'ah is nullified in 100 parts chulin. Therefore, if there would have been 100 part chulin in the mixture, it would have been nullified. Now, that's why the Mishnah says it makes no difference whether it's tameh or tahor, it's not going to be cancelled. Now, normally, a kohen can use terumah tme'ah, impure terumah, as fuel for a fire. Here, however, the Chachamim did not allow it. They said let the whole mixture rot, because even though people are generally careful not to eat terumah that is tameh, they are not as careful when it comes to a mixture of chulin and terumah tme'ah. Therefore, the rabbis were concerned that if the Kohen would be allowed to use this mixture as fuel, he may end up eating it, and for this reason, they did not allow him to use it at all. The Mishnah now moves on to discuss situations where the terumah that fell into the other produce was tahor. Pure terumah that's only for a Kohen fell into regular chulin produce. The halacha in this situation depends on whether the produce into which a terumah fell was chulin or not. Right? First, the Mishnah teaches what should be done if terumah fell into chulin that was tahor. So you have terumah, the portion for the Kohen, fell into regular portion in my house that is tahor. So the Mishnah says, Im teoraita otah se'ah, if that 1 pound, let's say, of terumah was tahor, and it fell into less than 100 pounds of chulin that was also tahor, the mixture contains terumah and chulin. Terumah is to be given to a kohen for free. Chulin can be sold. So the Mishnah says, Yimachru lakohanim bidmei terumah. Therefore, the entire mixture is sold to the kohanim at the cheaper price of terumah. Chutz midameh otasa, besides for the value of that 1 pound of terumah that fell in, which has to be given to the kohanim without charge. The mixture, it can obviously be eaten only by kohanim, since the terumah was not nullified. And the Mefarshim explain why is terumah sold at a cheaper rate than regular food. It's again, terumah could be regular food. Just this is the portion that's going to the kohen. The reason it's sold for less is for two reasons. Number one, it can only be eaten by kohanim in their household when they're not tameh, and number two, if the terumah becomes tameh, it cannot be eaten even by a kohen. So it's more liability, so to speak. Therefore, it's cheaper. Now, to move on, now the Mishnah moves on. We know Maaser Rishon is the 10% of produce that you have to give to a Levi, and then the Levi separates Terumat Maaser, another 10% from that to give to a Kohen. So just like Terumat Maaser is given to a Kohen, the Mishnah teaches us now, what do you do if the Terumah fell into Maaser Rishon, which did not have Terumat Maaser separated? So let me give an example. The Kohen right now has 1 pound of grain that he didn't separate 10% for the Kohen yet. And now Terumah that belongs to the Kohen fell inside that 10 pounds that the Kohen didn't get anything from yet. What does he do? The Mishnah says, Yikra Shem Litrumat Maaser. He should give the entire mixture to a Levi, and the Levi should designate the Maaser Rishon as Terumat Maaser for other Maaser Rishon that he has. Right? He takes your Maaser Rishon, he designates it as Terumat Maaser for other Maaser Rishon that he has, which the Mefarshim explain. Whenever a Levi receives Maaser, he designates 1/10 of it as Terumat Maaser, which he gives to a Kohen. Here, however, he cannot separate 1/10 of this produce as Terumat Maaser, since it has 1 pound of Terumah mixed in. Therefore, he has to take other Maaser, from which Terumat Maaser was never separated, and declare that all of the Maaser and the mixture of Maaser and Terumah is Terumat Maaser for that other Maaser. We're saying a lot of words. Let's give an example. The Arts Clusid gives a very good example. If the mixture contains 15 pounds of Maaser and 1 pound of Terumah, and it got mixed in, he should take 135 pounds of other Maaser from other Levi, from which he didn't separate the 10% yet for the Kohen, and he should designate the 15 pounds of Maaser that's in the mixture as Terumat Maaser for the entire 150, which is 135 pounds of other Maaser, plus the 15 pounds of Maaser that is in the mixture. Afterwards, he gives the entire 16 pounds, which is 15 of Terumat Maaser and 1 of Terumah, to the Kohen. And then the mixture now has Terumah and Terumat Maaser, which is given to a Kohen free of charge. Now the Mishnah moves on to discuss what should be done if Terumat Tehora became mixed into Maaser Sheni or Hekdesh. Vim Maaser Sheni or Hekdesh Nafla Re'enu Yifdu. If the Terumat Tehora, the pure Terumah, fell into less than 100 pounds of Maaser Sheni, which cannot be eaten outside of Yerushalayim unless it's redeemed, or into Hekdesh, which cannot be eaten at all without being redeemed, then the Maaser Sheni or Hekdesh and the mixture should be redeemed, which we know Maaser Sheni can be redeemed only by transferring its sanctity onto coins. The money is taken to Yerushalayim and used to buy food, which have to be eaten there. Hekdesh can only be redeemed by transferring its sanctity onto some other object, which then becomes Hekdesh. The mixture is then sold to the Kohanim at the cheaper price of Terumah, minus the pound of Terumah that fell in, which is given to them at no charge. Now that the Mishnah finished discussing Terumah that fell into produce that is Tahor, the Mishnah now is going to turn to Terumah Tehora that fell into Chulin that is Tameh. Pure Terumah fell into Chulin that is Tameh. Just like with Terumot Torah that fell into produce that is tahor, the mixture is sold to a Kohen without charging him for the Terumah. However, he must make sure that the Terumah does not become tameh. We know as a rule, food can become tameh only if it was first huchshar letumah, prepared for tumah, which is by becoming wet from one of these 7 specific liquids, which Maran tells us in Siman Kuf Nun Chet is Yad Shachadam, which is dew, water, wine, oil, blood, milk, and honey. And furthermore, food transmits tumah only when it's at least the size of a kabetza of an egg. So the Mishnah is going to apply these rules to our case. If the chulin to which the terumah fell was tameh, the produce may be eaten only dried or toasted, which Mefarshim tell us, once food has come into contact with one of the 7 liquids that prepare food for tumah, it can become tameh even if it's later dry. So the Mishnah is speaking about terumah that never came into contact with one of these 7 liquids that prepare food for tumah, therefore did not become tameh when being mixed with the tameh produce. The Mishnah continues that the Kohen cannot make the produce into dough, since it will become tameh when it comes into contact with water, or the produce should be kneaded with fruit juice like berry juice or pomegranate juice, because these juices do not make food prepared for tumah, or it should be divided into small portions of dough, that there is not an egg's volume in any one place. Each portion of dough is kneaded separately. In such a case, the dough can be even kneaded with water, because less than a kabetza volume of food cannot transmit tumah. And the Mefarshim continue to explain to us that if terumah became mixed into less than 100 se'av ma'aseh, which is tameh, the mixture is given to a Levi. The Levi takes other ma'aseh from which terumat ma'aseh was not separated, designates that produce as terumat ma'aseh for the ma'aseh of the mixture. For example, if the mixture has 9 pounds of ma'aseh, he takes 1 pound of other ma'aseh, designates that 1 pound as terumat ma'aseh for the 9, along with this 10th one. Then he sells the mixture to a Kohen without charging him for the terumah. The Kohen can use it in the manner that the Mishnah tells us. And similarly, if the terumah became mixed into Ma'aser Sheni or Hekdesh, that was tameh, they are redeemed. The entire mixture is sold to a Kohen without charging him for the terumah. That is in Rabotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen v'amen.